Welcome back, geology students.
Today's notes are titled 10-3, Rotations. All right, let's get started. You might want to pause this video again, get these sentences written down, fill in the blanks when I go through them. We're going to talk about rotations today. The word you know for a rotation is a turn. So I'm going to turn something, literally turn something as it goes around a graph. Okay? A couple things we need to know. The center of rotation is always a point. There's a point of rotation, and that is normally the origin. And we know the origin is the point 0, 0. It's the origin of the graph, where we start. There's always an angle of rotation. Usually the angle is a 90-degree rotation or 180-degree rotation. There are others, but the ones we focus on mainly are 90 degrees and 180 degrees. And there's a direction of rotation. I was going to tell you what direction are they rotating. This direction is counterclockwise, unless stated otherwise. So counterclockwise, let's remember what that is if we think about a clock. Okay, circle clock. Clockwise, the hands go to the right. So counterclockwise would go opposite to the left. All right, so counterclockwise unless stated. Let's look at example 1. Example 1 is what I gave you a graph of in class, so this is where that is going to go. We want to graph the image of the figure using the rotation given. The rotation is a 90-degree counterclockwise about the origin. About the origin just simply means around the origin. All right? So here is the key. If I rotate something 90 degrees counterclockwise, the easiest way to do that is to simply rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Done. Okay? That's what it's going to become. So did you see that? If I'm rotating 90 degrees or 180 or anything else, if I just take my paper and physically rotate my paper however far it goes, okay, this is 90 degrees counterclockwise, so to the left, this triangle is what it's going to look like after the rotation. Okay? So, if we went from the original to this now, all we have to do is write down what would these coordinates be. Okay? I'm going to have a couple of coordinates. U would be down here, so U prime would be the new coordinate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1. All right? That's L. So L prime is going to become 1, 2, 3, 0. And then G prime is going to become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 5, positive 4. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. This is what it's going to look like. So what you got to do then is rotate your paper back and simply plot these points. It wanted us to graph it, so I know what the points are going to be, so plot those points. U prime will be 5, negative 1. L prime will be 3, 0. And then G prime will be 5, 4. Pretty simple, I think. Hopefully you guys think so too. So let's write down those steps. What do we do when we rotate an object? Well, rotate your paper. Then write the new coordinates, whatever they're going to be. And then rotate your paper back. And then plot the new coordinates. Exclamation mark. All right? Cool. Example 2. Here I give you a graph. It says write a rule to describe each rotation. So part A is a graph, part B are just the coordinates. Maybe you want to pause this video. Give me a good sketch here. I'm not asking for a very intricate, detailed graph, but we can get about what it might look like. I'm going to focus here on Q. This is point Q, so if you want to make sure you label that point Q. Notice that point Q became Q prime down here. Okay? So we're going to write a rule to describe how would I rotate from Q here to Q prime. Well, notice back here for a 90-degree rotation, my image rotated one turn, or one quadrant. G went to G prime, I moved one quadrant to the left, so 90 degrees counterclockwise. Q moves 2 quadrants counterclockwise, so that's going to be 180 degrees. Rotated 180 degrees. It's not necessary to say rotate 180 around the origin, because when you rotate 180, you can only go one direction around the origin like that. Okay? Rotate 100 degrees. That is the rule. Part B here, we have S, P, and D, and then S prime, P prime, and D prime. S was at negative 4, negative 5. P is negative 5, negative 1. And D is negative 2, negative 3. So S prime becomes 5, negative 4. And that's what I want to focus on here. I'm really going to look at one of these coordinates. If I write a rule for S to S prime, it would be the same rule from P to P prime and D to D prime. Okay? it's kind of hard to just look at those coordinates and find out what happens. So we're going to bust out again my trusty pi pencil, 3.14. Pi day is March 14th, by the way, if you didn't get that last video. Okay, and I'm going to find a graph and then plot these 2 points. So if I take S, which was -4, -5, I'm going to use my previous graph over here. You might want to use your graph up there. Sorry about that. S would be right there, and then S prime becomes +5, -4. S prime is there. How many quadrants did I move? I moved 1 quadrant to the left, so we know from our previous example that's going to be rotated 180 degrees, or I'm sorry, rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. Yes, I want you to write about the origin because it's not always around the origin. Most of what we see will be around the origin, but there's our rule for these coordinates there. The same thing for P and D. All right, lastly, example 3 says find the coordinates of the vertices of the image after a rotation 180 degrees about the origin. All I do is give you 3 coordinates, L, M, and Z. So we want to get L prime, M prime, and Z prime. Okay? Now, to do this, again, there's nothing to it but to do it. So I want to actually rotate this 180 degrees. To do that, though, let's look at our example that we know is rotated 180 degrees and identify what happened. Point Q, which was given to us here at coordinate 3, 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, became Q prime, -3, -2. So what happens from 3, 2 to -3, 2, from 3, 2 to -3, -2? Well, the x, y, it doesn't switch places like with the reflection. Now it becomes -x, -y. All right, so that's what happens. This is kind of like our arrow notation with our translations. So we take the coordinate and just make it negative. So -3, -5 becomes -3, which is +3, and -5, which is +5. So just switch the sign. -3 becomes 3, 3, and Z prime becomes -1, +2. All right, hope that makes sense. We got our rotations, and have a great day.